Good afternoon, everyone. I am very excited to introduce our next presenter. Dr. Heather Snyder is the Vice President of Medical and Scientific Relations at the Alzheimer's Association. And in this role, she oversees the association initiatives that accelerate innovative Alzheimer's research and provide opportunities for the global dementia community to connect and collaborate. Dr. Snyder is responsible for the progress the association has made in Alzheimer's and dementia research funding. She leads the association's International Research Grant Program, which is the vehicle through which the association funds promising investigations that advance understanding of Alzheimer's and moves the field forward towards solutions for the global Alzheimer's crisis. As the world's largest nonprofit funder of Alzheimer's research, the Alzheimer's Association is currently investing over $208 million in 590 active best of field projects in 31 countries. Welcome, Dr. Snyder. We're excited to have you with us. You can go ahead.
Well, it's such a pleasure to be here. And I don't know about anybody else, but in the commercial break, so to speak, I was certainly dancing along with some of those songs and singing to Hey Jude. So looking forward to our time today and wish we were all together in person. I'm going to give a little bit of an overview of some of the association's funding priorities, some of our programs, and other ways that you can get engaged or involved with the Alzheimer's Association as a researcher, as someone that is advancing the work and the research going forward. Some tips and advice that we see is so common, and hopefully that will help you in your future applications to the association, but also to other organizations, and then look forward to your questions and answers in the time that we have. So you just heard the association is the world's largest nonprofit funder of Alzheimer's and dementia research. And today we have, these numbers are fresh, hot off the press. We have over $235 million that's active and committed to over 650 projects in 39 countries. So we continue to grow and expand. We don't know where that next idea is going to come from. We want to make sure we're funding and advancing the best science across the entire spectrum of science. So what about in your area? What about in Texas? What's going on? The association has actually awarded almost 100 grants in the last 25 years or so. We currently have 32 grants that are active, so 32 projects in the Texas research community that are active and supported by the association, totaling just under $10 million. So lots of exciting work that's going on all across your state in particular, but also all around the country and all around the world. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the other ways that we engage with the scientific community, but we're excited to have a little over 130 members of iStart, which is the association's professional society, and a number of researchers across Texas help us in our peer review process that we'll talk a little bit about. So really continuing to engage and look at opportunities that we can partner with you and the research community across the state of Texas. So a little bit about the association's program and what our funding strategy is. So we look to fund what others can't and won't. Where can we be identifying the gaps, the emerging areas in the science, and moving those forward? What are opportunities that perhaps really are some of those out of the box ideas or potential ways that we can accelerate the science? And we think of this as that seed, speed, scale. So opportunities like early career researchers who may be thinking about approaching these complex questions in different ways. They may have an expertise in another discipline that we want to bring that into Alzheimer's and dementia science and benefit our field going forward as well. Are there opportunities where we can speed the work forward, where we can provide funding to really allow for pilot funding that individuals are able to go on for that larger scalable funding at the federal level? And of course, I think you heard a little bit about our policy work today and the work that we do in increasing the funding at the federal level as well. So how does the association fund research? So we have a tremendous peer review process, which is really dependent on the scientific community, and that we work with over 9,000 scientists from around the world who have volunteered their time and their expertise to the association to work with us on the peer review process. So each of our funding programs has a letter of intent stage. So this is like a pre-proposal, an area where somebody may submit their idea to the program. These are reviewed and evaluated by those peer reviewers. And a fraction of those are then invited to submit full applications. Those full applications, again, go through a peer review process where each application is reviewed by at least 3 reviewers And then they're taken to a committee, a review panel, an expert review panel, where we adjudicate and really discuss all of those applications to make sure that we're able to rank and fund the best science that's going forward to all the dollars that we have. So all of the, for many of you that participate in the longest day, for the video that we just saw, or the walk to end Alzheimer's, or any of the other ways that you partner with the association, we really fund all of the dollars that were available within a given year based on those recommendations. These go to the International Research Grant Program Council and ultimately to the Alzheimer's Association and our medical and scientific advisory group. And through those processes, we really ensure that we have an overall portfolio balance across the program and across the work that we're doing. So a little bit about some of our core programs. We really identify that a gap and a need that we need to be supporting as an organization is early career scientists. These are researchers that may be approaching these complex problems or questions in different and unique ways. We want to be supporting them in the field. We also see that there's a huge need to have individuals that are clinically trained, so they see patients, but that also have research expertise. So we have two programs that are really aimed at building that workforce. That's our Clinical Science Fellowship Program and our Clinical Scientist Fellowship to Promote Diversity program. But we also recognize that, if you look at data around Nobel Prizes and where the Nobel Prize comes from, most individuals have their big discovery when they're in their around age 32. But yet the average age to get an independent award from the National Institutes of Health in the US is around 45. So that's a group of individuals that we want to be supporting their innovative ideas. And through our research fellowship and our research fellowship to promote diversity, those are opportunities for us to support researchers that are coming up the pipeline and keep them in the Alzheimer's and dementia space. We want to support those innovative ideas and approaches. Once investigators are newly independent through our research grant program and our research grant program to promote diversity, we still want to help them get established as investigators and explore and expand their research ideas. But we also recognize that as we understand more and more about Alzheimer's and the underlying science, there are other disciplines and expertise that really could lend their hand and their expertise into Alzheimer's and dementia science. So there might be an individual, for instance, that worked on inflammation in cancer in oncology. Can they apply that expertise in Alzheimer's and other dementia? And we have a new to the field program that's really for individuals that have that type of expertise and want to bring it into this program. In general, those that are what we consider new to the field, they've not published, they've not previously been funded. This is really the funding to help seed those ideas and that application of their expertise into this field. Now we're in the middle of a call for these core programs right now, but our next cycle will be in August of 2021. So I'd encourage you to keep an eye out for those. And of course, reach out and read the program announcement for additional details. And you can see the website in the corner at alz.org/grants. But we have other programs that we often offer throughout the year. And so some of those are targeted RFAs and they might be offered once or twice, but we have other programs that we've consistently offered over the years. So for the last 5 years or 6 years now, I guess, we've offered the Part of the Cloud Translational Research Program. And this is really an opportunity of taking things from the bench to the bedside. We hear that term so frequently, but it's really that translation into early human trials. So they have these ideas, they've perhaps been developed at the university setting or in small biotechs or industry setting. And it really needs to move into the early phase clinical trials that are evaluating the safety or the tolerability, the potential dose of that particular target or that particular approach. And this is very specific to potential drugs or experimental drugs. Really, a goal is to diversify that pipeline of what's being explored or what's being advanced into early human trials. And to date, through Part of the Cloud, we've funded just over $60 million that have advanced 58 phase 1 and phase 2 studies. Recently, Part of the Cloud partnered with Bill Gates and his team in terms of getting us to that goal of $60 million. And in the past year and a half, we've funded 30 of those trials to go forward. One of the things that's really exciting about Part of the Cloud is the diversity of the targets that we're seeing, meaning that we're really seeing as we understand more and more about the biology in Alzheimer's and other diseases, we're seeing ideas that are being advanced that are looking at targeting that biology. So things around how the brain cells are communicating to each other, some of the synaptic plasticity and overall synaptic health, things around neuroinflammation and some very specific inflammatory and other immune-related pathways, trying to look at the mechanisms related to cellular senescence and senolytics and approaching in that way, just to name a few. But as you can see, there's a much larger list here as well. And of course, this program, we anticipate offering it sometime later this summer. And these grants are anywhere from typically $750,000 to $2 million. And so that range, again, the goal is to accelerate into human clinical trials as we go forward. And I'm really excited to share that kind of a different twist on what we are funding. And this program is called the Advancing Research on Care and Outcome Measurements, or ARCOM. And this is going to be launching sometime in the next several days. This is a partnership that we are doing with Brain Canada, as well as with the Link AD team. That's a team that has received funding from the National Institutes of Health at the Alzheimer's Association, and really looking at a gap, some big gaps in the field, where we need to have the potential for advancing outcome and care-related measurements that are able to be scalable and implemented in large and diverse populations. Thinking about how we can apply and evaluate the use of those measurements in terms of the impact that they're going to have on the individual living with dementia and or their caregiver. And of course, there's an emphasis on diverse and underrepresented populations, because many times these measurements aren't being evaluated or developed in diverse populations. So this program is going to have grants that are up to $250,000 over 2 years. And as I said, we're looking forward to launching this sometime in the next 2 or 3 days in partnership with Brain Canada. So really excited about that. And you can check out alz.org/grants. Of course, you can also email us at grants@alz.org. And I've got that email address throughout this presentation as well for more information. We anticipate sometime later this spring or an early summer to launch the third iteration of another program that we partner with the TAL Consortium. This is an initiative of the Rainwater Charitable Foundation, a group that's based in Texas and that we've partnered with for the last 3 years. And the goal of this is really to look at the biology of tau. Tau is one of the hallmark brain changes that we see in Alzheimer's, but we also see it in frontal temporal dementia, Lewy body dementia, and over 20 other brain diseases that are associated. Many of them are associated with cognitive impairment. So partnering with the TAL Consortium, this program is really to take, you might have an idea or a biology that's relevant, but there's a lot of work that you've got to do before you get into clinical trials. So it's looking at some of the safety, the toxicology of it, looking at potentially, does it target the particular biology that you're looking at in different model systems? And all that work needs to be done in some way. And the Tau Pipeline Enabling Program, or TPEP, is really focused on funding that work and moving those ideas forward. And I'm excited to share that through Part the Cloud, through TPEP, and through our core programs. We have a number of awardees all across the state of Texas. And so the list was too big to share, but I did want to highlight 4 of our awardees throughout the state of Texas that are at different institutions, just to give you an example of the breadth of the researchers in your state that are funded and supported through our programs. Dr. Carrie Ann Montgomery from Texas A&M Health Sciences has been doing work on cognitive impairment and Alzheimer's, and really trying to understand some of that synaptic health and how the brain cells are communicating to one another as a potential way of targeting that for therapy. Dr. Christina Miyawaki at University of Texas, Houston is doing some work on looking at providing caregiver, or looking at training caregivers to deliver an intervention that they call life review for persons with dementia as they're living in care facilities. Now, as you can imagine, with COVID, Dr. Miyawaki has had to make some adjustments to her work, and we've worked very closely with her, and she's really approached this with some out-of-the-box and unique approaches to thinking about how to deliver and train individuals in care facilities to ensure an improved quality of life, overall quality of life. And we have 2 of those Part the Cloud Gates awardees are in the state of Texas. One is Dr. Tues, who I understand you heard from earlier today. I actually had the pleasure of listening in, and I'm able to work very closely with her on the COVID work that she shared a little bit about. Dr. Seshadri and her team are advancing a phase 2 trial of rapamycin for Alzheimer's. So rapamycin is a drug that's being what we call repurposed, meaning that it was developed around organ transplant and is typically used to suppress the immune system in individuals that are going through organ transplant. But some of that biology we know is relevant and incredibly and plays a role in the mechanisms associated with Alzheimer's. And so this is actually repurposing that drug developed for another cause and applying it to individuals with Alzheimer's. And more recently, Dr. Ali Raza Faradar at Texas Methodist in Houston is evaluating regulatory T cells as a novel approach for Alzheimer's disease. And so this is a phase 1 study, and they're just getting started. We actually just met with him in the last week as they're starting their work and moving forward. So as you go and apply for these programs, whether you're applying for one of our core programs for early career researchers or one of our targeted RFAs, I just named 3, but throughout the year, we may have others that we offer. There's lots of potential tips for success and things that we hear all the time as being so incredibly valuable to awardees or potential applicants. The first is read the program announcement, read the RFA, the request for applications. It does change, and we are very specific in the language that we're using. And if something isn't clear, ask. That's what we're here for. That's what our team is here for. We do review all of the letters of intent. So all of those pre-proposals, they are reviewed. And it is not a guarantee that because you submitted a letter of intent that you'll automatically be invited. We don't collect feedback at that stage, but our team is always able to usually take a look and based on the conversation, the comments we do hear, generally share some of that feedback back with you. So you can always reach out for that. As I mentioned, the RFAs, the program announcement, they're very specific for the program, and the eligibility criteria is also very specific. We'll often have people that are trying to sometimes do to fit into a program that they're just not eligible for. They don't meet the eligibility criteria. And generally what we find is if we do make exceptions, people aren't going to be competitive in those programs, or that's going to get called out in the review. And that's not a good use of anybody's time as we go through that process. And of course, some advice just in terms of overall grantsmanship is find someone that's really good at reviewing grants or commenting on a grant before you submit. And this is an opportunity for them to evaluate and review your overall program. We do have the opportunity for applicants to add in something that is that you're able to identify reviewers to include or exclude, and that is a potential for you to add into your overall application. And of course, if you do apply and you ultimately are not successful and you apply at another round, pay attention to those critiques. And of course, we can walk through those with you as well and share a little bit with you in terms of what might be some of the reviewer comments and some of the discussions overall. And of course, we're here to help. So here's the email I mentioned, grantsapp@alz.org. Always reach out. Our goal is for you to be successful as an applicant. So reach out, apply. If you have questions, if you want to know if you're eligible, you want to share what you're thinking and ask what a program might be coming that's a fit for you, that's what we're here for. So reach out. Of course, we have a deadline this week. So I will tell you that our team is going to be inundated and it might take us a couple days to get back to you this week, but we will respond and we do get back to you we aim to get back to you in a very timely manner as well. So one of the other ways, so in terms of, we engage our reviewers, we engage our researchers through different activities, but we also have iStart, and I mentioned this at the beginning of our time together as well. iStart is the association's professional society, and this is an opportunity for researchers to come together and really engage in different ways. Some of the benefits that you can see for iStart members, you can see here. But I think for me and what I routinely hear as being probably the most valued benefit is the access to professional interest areas that are focused on specific research areas and specific topics. These could include researchers convening around the intersection of Down syndrome and Alzheimer's. There's the AWARE PIA, which is the Alliance of Women Alzheimer's Researchers. It's an opportunity to come together on as women researchers on supporting women, things around intersectionality and other topics around career development. An early career researcher, professional interest area, looking at the immunity and inflammation, and a group that's really focused on that, technology and dementia, and looking at all of the different ways that technology intersects with dementia care, dementia research more broadly. So those types of opportunities are available for iStart. It's a great opportunity for particularly early career researchers or those that may be newer to the field to be engaged and to really network with others that are more senior to them. And there's a lot of opportunities in terms of white papers and other types of collaborations that come out of these professional interest areas. So there's sessions and submissions to conferences as well. And that just gives you a kind of a broad view. There are specific awards that are then developed by the PIA. There's been quite a number of webinars in the last year. There's various journal clubs Again, opportunities for early career researchers to network and connect with other senior leaders in the field that may not be at your institution or around the corner, but they may be across the globe. And this is an opportunity for you to engage with them and maybe work with them in a way that you wouldn't otherwise do so. And one of the benefits of iStart is actually having access to Alzheimer's and Dementia and our 2 open access journals, which is the top disease-specific journal overall in clinical neurology and the 3rd overall. So this is an opportunity to both have access to this free of charge, but also if you're submitting to either our open access journals or to Alzheimer's and Dementia, having reduced fees for that as well. So lots of different opportunities. And then of course, there's also the benefit of reduced registration fees for the Alzheimer's Association International Conference and other meetings, which I'll talk about in just a moment. Now in our time, I did want to mention that there is also an upcoming this summer, there is an interdisciplinary course. This is funded through the National Institute on Aging through the Alzheimer's Association to develop this course, really targeting psychosocial researchers that want to further advance their career in dementia science. So applications are being accepted right now. The deadline is April 8th, and you can collect more information at alz.org Summer Institute. So really exciting opportunity to engage and again, network with others in the space and others in this field as well. There we go. And just a little bit more about this program. So again, it's targeted for early career psychosocial and public health researchers that are invited to apply. It's a no-cost opportunity. They're looking at inviting 24 of the applicants to participate. And you can see the goals here in terms of the overall expectations and the objectives of this program. So again, deadline is April 8th. So we hope you look and consider applying for this unique opportunity. And just coming around the corner following that is the Alzheimer's Association Addressing Health Disparities Conference. Again, this is also made possible through an R13 from the National Institute on Aging, as well as funding from the association. This is a virtual conference, again, free of charge to participate, and you can find out more at alz.org health disparities. But there's a number of discussions and sessions that will be focused on some of the big gaps and areas that we as research and research community really need to be focusing and understanding as we develop therapies and as we develop interventions and an overall understanding of disease perspective in these communities as well. So I think it's going to be an incredible discussion. We had a preview webinar last week with the program committee. I believe it's available on our website at alz.org under research and research webinars. I think it's going to be a really fantastic discussion, and I encourage anybody that's interested in this topic to participate and join us for those sessions. And then lastly, another benefit of iStart is reduced registration expenses and fees for the AAIC. This is the world's largest convening of Alzheimer's and dementia science in the world. This is aimed to take place this summer in Amsterdam. We are working on a hybrid approach, so there'll be an in-person aspect. Our current plans are that there'll be an in-person aspect from July 26th to July 30th, but there'll also be a hybrid online opportunity for those that may be unable to travel. So really excited about this and exploring the opportunity of both increasing access and engagement of the global research community through that hybrid in-person and online opportunity. And I think the last thing that I wanted to share is, because we've covered a whole lot of information here, is the association has this science hub, and you can download this from your app store for whatever your smartphone, if you have a smartphone or tablet, may be. And what this is while this is typically, we often talk about this as having resources or links for stories that are in the news and in the media, it also has a lot of information in terms of, if you look here on the button, about us and resources. So things like linking to iStart, things like linking to AAIC, various funding programs and opportunities that are coming there. You want to look at who's being funded by the association and who might be doing work like you. There's an opportunity for you to search and look for those types of individuals as well through that system. And all of these programs really are ultimately getting to our goal, our vision as an organization of a world without Alzheimer's and all other dementia. And huge thank you to all of you, because it's all of us working together and moving the research forward that will make us achieve that vision. So looking forward to discussing and answering some questions in the time that we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Snyder. And we do have a few questions for you. The first question is, knowing what we know of health disparities and based on some of the latest facts and figures that came out in our report recently, how will this shape future research opportunities?
Yeah, so I think the association has a fairly, through our core programs, we have a fairly robust disparities and equity portfolio. So approximately 10 to 15% of our research funded today is really looking at advancing our understandings of health disparities or addressing health disparities, whether it be associated with supporting the person with dementia or related to some of the care aspects. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot more that needs to be done. So we're certainly looking at the upcoming health disparities meeting as an opportunity for us as we really get into the research and the gaps in the areas of that need more focus to identify if there are, what those potential funding opportunities should be.
And what are some of the other areas of research that are being considered for funding right now?
So our core programs are open. They're open calls in terms of looking at the full spectrum of science that's going on. And we see really, I think, the full scope of work that's coming in. In terms of our immediate plans for RFAs, I think the ones that I talked about are the ones that we know are rolling out in the next couple of months. We are working with our International Research Grant Program Council, and we'll do a call out to the broader scientific community for ideas on what might be some of those gaps and what might be some of the other areas that we should be considering or focusing on as well.
And the last question I have is regarding Trial Match. Can you talk a little bit about how Trial Match works?
Yeah, great question. And I didn't mention it today, but I am sure it's come up sometime in your time today or that you've heard about it. So Alzheimer's Association Trial Match is really an opportunity to match to trials that are in your local area. You can almost think of it as like a match.com for clinical trials. It's a way of going in, you can fill out your profile and get the information on what might be the trials that are within the geography of your interest. So it might be within your local area, or perhaps your family member lives somewhere else in the country and you want to find a trial that's happening in their area. So it's really an opportunity for you to identify that. If you're a clinician or a healthcare professional and you see patients or have those conversations with families, with individuals with dementia or their family, you can also find out what are the trials that are happening in your community to be informed and share that information with individuals as well. And lastly, I think the other thing is if you're a researcher that's doing studies, it's an opportunity for you to submit your study, submit your clinical trial. It does go through a review, but to submit your study through Trial Match, you can do that at alz.org/trial match to provide that information that then will match to hopefully others that are in the community that are interested in the trial. So there's lots of different ways to engage with Trial Match. If you're someone looking for a trial, if you're looking for a trial for somebody in your family, or if you're a researcher. And the last thing I'd note is that they're not, we often hear, but I don't, it's my family member that has the disease, it's not me. There are trials of all sorts through Trial Match. There's trials that are for people living with dementia. There are trials that are for people providing care. There are trials for cognitively unimpaired individuals that may be looking at safety or some of the other big questions that we need. And this is a huge barrier to moving research studies forward. We need participants in trials, and the sooner we can get them in trials, the sooner we can have the outcome and know the next step that needs to go forward as well. So research volunteers are absolute heroes, and it's definitely another way to get involved.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Snyder. This information has been incredibly helpful. And I want to say thank you to all of our presenters for sharing information about the research that's being done here in Central Texas and beyond and around Alzheimer's and dementia. As we are wrapping up today's research updates, we do have a bonus session this afternoon that's going to be sharing more information about the valuable resources and some practical tips for caregivers during this current pandemics.
The first person to survive Alzheimer's disease is out there. They're going to hold on to everything the disease steals away. That smile they can't hide. That dance class they love. Every single piece of them is going to make it through. And the Alzheimer's Association is going to make it happen by funding research, advancing public policy, and spurring scientific breakthroughs. And by providing local support to those living with the disease and their caregivers, we're easing the burden for all those facing it until we accomplish our goal. Alzheimer's disease has devastated millions of lives, but that's all going to change when we reach the first survivor. But we won't get there without you. Visit alz.org to join the fight.